Welcome to the show, BALLBUSTERS, episode 98. We're getting up there. We're getting close to the one not. Welcome to the show. We got the HelioTARD destroyer, gas pressure. Just that simple, folks. The entire model that doesn't exist goes down in flames. Simple as that. See if my partner, the distinguished Nate Oakley, in the house. He wasn't in there before. Let's see if he's there. You out there, sir?
If you'd like to support this channel, there are Patreon and PayPal links in the info box below the video.
Damn, I'm off my game.
Welcome to BALLBUSTERS. Good to be here.
Outstanding,
You're all
sir.
enjoying us from the land of YouTube.
Shout out to Adam
Share the show.
Shout out to Adam who couldn't be here today. He is on his wedding anniversary in Italy.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's hope he doesn't get arrested.
Let's hope.
Again.
Again. Yes. Again. Yes.
He sent me a picture earlier of Croatia from, I think it was the eastern shore of Italy. It's hard to see.
Oh, right. I hear they do good bread and water there.
Bread and water where?
Doesn't matter.
What's going on? What's going on out there? How's everything going? Did I miss anything?
Really? Just, I'm intrigued to know. You've done quite a number of response videos.
Mm-hmm.
If you totted them all up, yeah, I reckon you and I could get a running total together of how many people we've addressed on our respective shows that haven't responded.
Are you talking just the treatments?
I'm saying combined, the treatment plus Earth debate reaction videos combined.
Combine them?
I would. There's got to be. I mean, I did a rough count earlier. I can't actually remember the number, but it was, dozens and dozens of videos, responses to people.
And nothing back.
No, basically not. You just go, well, okay, what's the excuse?
I don't. Well, I do know. There are no responses. Maybe a couple mind-numbing minutia comebacks, I would suppose, but nothing, to the meat of the point.
These are the big boys that you and I have been responding to, the big name brands of heliocentrism. And yeah, you'd expect some response, right?
Yeah, if you're talking about the big boys, are you talking? Because I did a few on PhDs who weren't just unknown PhDs. Or do you count them as big boys or no?
Yes, I would. So regardless of whether you're a big boy in terms of consensus or a big boy in terms of brain, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
The people that count are either counting because they've got something to say because they're smart, or count because they've got a lot of people listening to them.
Right.
Whatever reason, they're all bundled together.
I think because I think you've done a little bit, probably more than I have, because you've been on a roll the past couple weeks, man.
That's exactly what got me thinking. Somebody said one of the videos I put out in a short was just me in the middle of a rant saying, share my video with this guy and tell him that I've sent you. And the reason I want you to do it is because I want him to do the same back when he responds, if he responds. I'm like talking to the guys on the panel about the law of 10, which in sales terms is just an averages law that gets you to do 10 phone calls to hopefully get one appointment out of 10 phone calls for the sake of argument. And then once you've got 10 appointments, you might get one sale. Well, that's how I'm looking at it statistically. And you go, okay, statistically by now, somebody should have responded from that group of people. Now, I discount the anti-flat earthers. I don't include them.
Yes.
I don't care if I get a response from Simon Dan or Dave McKeegan or whoever else, Blue Marble. They don't count.
Sure. You know that 78.76% of statistics are made up on the spot?
Vic Reeves joke.
I got that in a little short. I did the remix because you sandbagged me. You see, I was because I missed yesterday's show, and I caught the first part about your query to Mother Nature, and I caught when you first stated it and made it an issue, but I went ahead and put it on audio and saved it and put it away, and I kept listening to the show, and then you did it again. So later, it was about 45 minutes later into the same video, so I had to go back and then edit the original one. So I called it the remix.
What, me making that Vic Reeves joke?
No, that was part of it, but it was when that gentleman said that, well, just ask Mother Nature.
Did I do that twice?
You did it twice, yes.
Yes, you did.
Was it better? I only got the first one. Was it better the second time?
The second one was just as funny, man.
I have to re-listen. I didn't realize I'd done it twice because I caught that. I was listening to it. What I tend to do if I think I've had a good show is the following morning I'll sit and I'll listen back through it. Quite early in the morning when the kids have got us up.
Sure.
And my wife is typically in the next room doing whatever she's doing. And she happened to overhear that bit and came in just wetting herself. Because normally it's fairly straight-laced, right, when we're doing these responses. We're matter-of-fact pulling apart their stuff. To have out of nowhere me pretending to be nature, it made her laugh. So I was like, well, if it's made you laugh, that must mean it'll make someone else laugh. So I'll trim that out.
Yeah, I'd play it right now for you, but you won't be able to hear it. You'd have to listen to it over the delay. So I'm not going to do it. But if you go to the remix...
Go on. No, we've talked it up too much.
All right, hold on.
I've heard it. I said it.
1 second. I'll wait for the delay because, like I said, there's obvious. I'll wait for the... Did you hear me? My mic's kind of messing up. All right, we're good now.
We don't need to worry about the delay. Don't worry about the delay for us. Just play it and carry on.
Okay, here we go.
Just go out and put a question to Mother Nature.
Nature, is this guy a fuckwit? Yes, Nathan! He's really stupid!
And so, yeah, I'm really sad that only 84% of people can...
72.4% of statistics are made up on the spot. Vic Reeves.
say with certainty that they've always believed the world is a globe. And that...
Hold on a second. Nature, can you hear me? Yes, Nathan. It all gone silent at our end because I'm assuming the video. What percentage of wanker is this guy? He's about 94.7% wanker. Thank you, Nature.
Well, that's the end of it. Thanks for getting in the middle and ruining it.
Sorry, you should have told us that there was a delay.
I broke it apart. It was like 2 or 3 seconds. I had to break, I had to give a slight pause between the iterations. Should we play it again uninterrupted this time?
I'll try and stay on mute.
All right. Here we go. Do it again.
Just go out and put a question to Mother Nature.
Nature, is this guy a fuckwit? Yes, Nathan. He's really stupid.
And so, yeah, I'm really sad that only 84% of people can...
72.4% of statistics are made up on the spot. Vic Reeves.
Say with certainty that they've always believed the world is a globe. And that...
Hold on a second. Nature, can you hear me? Yes, Nathan. What percentage of wanker is this guy? He's about 94.7% wanker. Thank you, Nature.
There you go.
Very good. Very good. I assume I wasn't listening.
Yeah, it's good. I wouldn't tape things.
I do.
Go ahead.
If you're going to rob jokes, rob them from the best comedians.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I like those impromptu things you did. That just cracked me the heck up.
It's because I take things very literally. I don't know what it is, but you know, when someone says you can ask nature, I mean, the context that he was saying it in could have molded it into something coherent. That's not my job in his video, is it?
Nope.
So he's talking about parallax, the guy in this instance, the Johnny guy, described it as reductionist science, and then went on to describe it as the statistic method.
Mm-hmm.
When he's using parallax in this example, because he keeps calling him parallax as opposed to Robotham, which is fine because that's the pseudonym the book's written under. He's talking about how phenomena of nature speaks to man. Like, okay, that's one way of saying we look at phenomena. It's just a more romantic way of saying it, and that's all Robotham's done. He's turned the observation of natural phenomena into something a bit more romantic sounding. The nature speaks to us through its phenomena. Yeah, shut up, Robotham, you bloody hippie. It's my attitude.
It's good. I don't want to say it's good. It's more interesting, you know. And when you're telling a story, it's sort of rhetorical language. You wouldn't call it reification because they're metaphors and they give more color to it. But it depends on the genre that you're in. If you're trying to give evidence for some type of phenomena or where your stance, then it's not a good idea to reify things because we're going to jump all over it, and rightfully so. I mean, you're not telling a story. This isn't story time. I mean, we're discussing the nature of our reality, and if you're starting to go into story time, you're going to get jackhammered. And like I said, justfully and rightfully so.
Exactly, that was what I was taking from it. The guy's leaning on some romanticized words that Robotham has used. Now, whether or not Robotham understands the scientific method isn't relevant in this context when the narrator, in this case the Johnny guy, is hijacking some of those romanticized words to make himself sound smart when it comes to science. Like the Valley Girls thing. It's like these British guys are science or something like that.
Yes.
Like, okay, you don't really know what you're talking about, but you want your audience of millions to think that you do. Now, fine, in most circumstances, live and let live when you're talking about anything else. But when you're stereotyping me in what I think as a flat earther, obviously you're going to find objection in it. And like you say, you're going to jump all over the little reifications that become his citation. They become his claim in terms of how he's putting it across. Now,
Yep.
Is it an important claim in terms of the romantic way of describing phenomena that Robotham used? Not really. But it is when you're slagging me off as a flat earther. And like you say, I'm just going to jump all over it and make you look stupid.
Yes.
Why not?
Yep. And nice call with the composition fallacy. I as soon as I heard it, I said, yep, composition, and you were all over it. Outstanding. That's exactly what he was doing. He was double speaking about observation. Well, what this guy, I don't know. It's the Dunning-Kruger delusion is so steeped in these morons. They don't realize that the words that are coming out of their mouth from a few seconds before that and a few minutes before that, and he was back and forth double speaking about senses and why it was good to make observations and then how observations were bad. He didn't even realize that he was contradicting himself.
Right. He was getting well, not even borderline. He was just getting full psychotic.
Yep.
I at some point honestly just thought like, nah, this can't be mistakes. Like, he's got to know that he's doing this. Like,
Nope.
just couldn't believe it anymore. It's just too much, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Why is this guy allowed in public?
Yeah, that's exactly
Well,
right.
I don't know why it is about that particular Johnny guy, Arwin, but I felt the exact same. I don't often, if ever, dwell on these sorts of videos that we did, but this particular one, that Johnny guy, I have dwelled on. I'm not going to lie. I'll just come out straight out with it and say he has, got on my nerves to the point where the reason is maybe a bit unexpected, right? The reason he's got on my nerves is because, like all of the ones that we've been responding to, he's popular. In this case, there's something a little bit different about that, which is to say that it makes me think we live in a world of like idiocracy, where if you're and you talk nonsense, you will be promoted up through the ranks of YouTube to dumb down the world. And that's the only justification I can give myself why he's in the position to talk shit to millions of subscribers. Like total nonsense. It's because that's the world we live in, isn't it? Now, I know that. It's one of those things that you go, well, yeah, isn't that obvious? Now you say it. You know, you are literally just talking about how the origins of the globe came to pass. It happened to be flat. Doesn't agree with the world view of the Western world, therefore you're censored. What does agree with the Western worldview, regardless of how nonsensical it's put across to an audience, well, that's in support of the Western worldview. Promote him. He's talking nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Is he promoting us? Is he supporting our world? Yeah, promote him. Are they not supporting us? Yeah, but they're factually accurate. Just censor them. It's like, that's the world we live in. And I find that when you see it so glaring with that type of character, who's just literally chewing his face off, not knowing what he's talking about, and like you say, contradicting the last statement he's made in the edit. If he's that dumb, you're like, how the hell have you got to this position? Yep, that's the world we live in.
Yes.
Slightly, I'm laughing, but it irritates me.
Yeah, it was irritating, especially the what he was preaching. It was just, like I said, it was doublespeak, constant doublespeak. It was sometimes it was so fast. Second graders could pick these out. Just listen to him, like in between iterations of Candy Crush. Yep, he just contradicted himself. Yep, another one.
Right.
Another. You could go through the whole thing and count them up. It's in the high 30s or 40s. Probably, it might be more.
It was like double speaking championship ping pong. He was so fast, you have trouble actually catching up on every time he did it.
Yes.
I didn't. That's why I like the fact that you and Chocolate were there, Arwin, because I wasn't picking up on it, because I'm picking apart the argument in isolation for each sentence that he's made, and not necessarily paying attention to the fact that in this particular breath, he's saying that observations for flat earthers, in quotes, air quotes, are meaningless and useless or something to that effect. Then I'll pause it and address his ludicrous statement. And then he'll make another statement. And then I'll address that statement. Then he'll make a third statement, which is that observations are completely useful and the be-all and end-all with descriptions attached from heliocentrists. And I'll attack that point. Then one of you, either Chocolate or Arwin in this case, will pipe up and go, literally 25 seconds ago, he said the complete opposite, contextualized around flat earthers. Now he's done a complete 180 on his opinion about what are or aren't useful in observational terms, because he definitely wasn't contextualizing it in scientific method. You'd say, well, now he's contradicting that because globe proponents putting forward the argument. Therefore, all observations are worth everything and bow down to the telescope or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, I wasn't catching them where Arwin and Chocolate were.
Yeah, you didn't need to. Everyone else was catching them out there. It was fine. Shout out to Divergent Droid out in chat, who we kind of quickly went over the fallacy of composition. Excuse me, more or less just stating it. He went and defined it in chat and gave an example. So way to go, Divergent Droid. Way to stay on top of it, man.
I'll read it out. So this is from our best moderator by a million miles. No offense to you, other moderators. You're sorely lacking by comparison to Divergent Droid. I've just got to say it. Offense. Anyway, the fallacy of composition is an informal fallacy that arises when one infers that something is true of the whole from the fact that it is true from some part of the whole. Example, quotes, this tyre is made of rubber, therefore the vehicle of which it is part of is also made of rubber, end quote. Example. Thank you very much, Divergent Droid. That is so above and beyond what you'd expect from a moderator.
Yes.
Just backing our points in the chat now. We are not worthy.
No, we're not. I looked over and I seen it and I said, my word, I'm not used to that.
Since that's an informal fallacy, can you do it in a tuxedo?
I was just thinking, I was going to bring it up because he said informal fallacy. I said that, it's one of the ones that people use when they don't have ties on.
It has
Too
no
funny.
form. When it's informal, obviously to state it at all, you've got to have some form to it, right? How do you define What's the distinction between informal and formal?
Well,
in fallacy
formal
terms?
fallacies are formed like P's and Q's. The other ones don't have P's and Q's. They're informal. They're without form. But some people think that formal is with a tie on and informal is like leisure wear.
No, I got the gag, but I'm just so the form would be if there's it's the logical form
Yes.
it has to take. So if P then Q, Q therefore P
Yes.
would be a formal logical fallacy.
Yes.
Right, because it's got form, whereas just begging the question for the sake of argument would be informal.
Exactly correct.
Sure. Okay.
Shout out to
you
M.
ever read
Scott
about
Veach. That numpty dipshit. That's what he made one of those statements, and it's in a numpty clip somewhere. But thanks a lot, Divergent. Right now, what that gentleman was doing, I call him gentleman. You know what I mean? The numpty double-speaking Dunning-Kruger idiot yesterday. What he was doing, he was trying to use observation as the scientific method, and even though observation is part of the scientific method, it's not the whole. So that's where he was guilty of the fallacy of composition. Just tie a bow around it.
After you've tied a bow around it, it's a good point for me to make a segue into today's subject matter, which is to say that when we talk about natural laws, they are not science. I'm just going to repeat that. Laws of nature are not science. Now, prefacing this entire presentation off the cuff because there's a very important trick that is utilized when talking specifically about laws of nature, which is that they get rebranded. The rebranding comes in the form of calling them scientific laws or laws of science.
Or laws of physics.
Or the laws of physics. There you go.
Yep.
The reason they do that, and I'm going to use one of Quantum Eraser's terms, which is to grease the skids of their just so stories. I'm going to distinguish between the two things to make clear why this would be done. So, in the scientific method, there's an empirical outcome based on a hypothesis after observing a natural phenomena, whereby you vary a presumed cause, see if it causes the effect you're studying, and that's the end, that's the outcome. Empirical in nature. Now, because it's empirical by nature, that means it has a huge amount of power to wield. Empiricism is powerful. Now, you, as an individual in the Western world education system, will have been trained at about 5th grade level. The scientific method is empirical. With that understanding trained into you from an early age, from that point forward, you can relabel things as science with a justifiable reason for doing so. The justifiable reason for doing so comes in the form of laws of science, which are just descriptions. When you describe, which we will in this particular show, the second law of thermodynamics, or entropic law, you are merely describing the effect of entropy. It's all it is. A description of something that occurs always. That's a law of nature. If you can rebrand a law of nature, a law of science, or a law of physics, then it seems like descriptions are science. And that opens the floodgates to look at a light in the sky, give it a description, and call it science, when it hasn't followed the scientific method. You can lean on the fact that, well, entropy hasn't been through the scientific method, but it's still science. No, it isn't. That's where they've hijacked terminologies of science, distributed them to descriptions so they can do the same further down the road. There you go. That's my preamble for the second law of thermodynamics / gas pressure without a container presentation that's going to take place today on BALLBUSTERS. Please share the show.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, we're going to get into it. There's another little point I'd like to make with it. You are correct. There's another little point that I'd like to make with it that's a little bit more subtle and insidious. They take what are natural laws, the legitimate ones, all the laws of thermodynamics, for example, and they appeal to people because everyone knows that hot flows to cold always, right? Gas pressure, it always expands. People, even though they might not know the technical definition of entropy, they sort of understand the concept, right? And just because we're saying they're not scientific doesn't mean they're not true, okay? So these laws of physics that they say, they're not really laws of physics, they're natural laws. They are true. And what they do is, since they're true, they piggyback all their horse shit under the term science because they put the natural laws under science, and whatever they say after that is also true, right? Because your coffee cup, when it's really hot, it's going to get cool. Everyone knows that if you leave it set up. That's entropy. So they take that fact, wrap it up in this is science, and now that greases the skids again for their evolution fairy tales, right? The Big Bang Theory. Well, the laws of physics, the second law of thermodynamics is true. Therefore, the evolution fairy tale and Big Bang Theory and all that horseshit string theory must also therefore be true. Follow that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
AKA greasing the skids.
Yep. That's the little game that they play. I'd like to touch on one more thing before we get into the gas pressure presentation, because it stood out to me and I seen it this morning, and it was on your channel. It's this little thing right here. I watched it and I was snickering at your little short at Veritasium with the guy, and you'll see it here in a couple seconds, with the guy with the two basketballs standing outside the little, I don't think it's a concession stand, it's like a little booth. And I didn't notice it either because I was watching the balls, right? But Adam stopped you and said, well, wait a second, look at the balloons behind him. I was rolling, man. You really, it was a really good spot. Kudos to you.
Kudos to 10th and Adam for spotting it, because we make the example, and I even made the example 20 seconds earlier in the clip. In the live video, the progress is me hearing him make the claim before using the example dropping the basketballs. I say, releases helium balloon, looks up at clouds, as in referring to what I would do to debunk him if he was saying it in front of me. And in the clip, I release a helium balloon that's on a satellite. You know, very topical and of the moment. Anyway, point is that I'd already made the example before it went up on screen, but I still didn't see it. I think afterwards, John, Refracted Curvature, said it's a bit like when you see the example with all the basketball team and you're supposed to count the number of dribbles, count the bounces of the ball. You're there counting, and then the person afterwards says, did you see the gorilla walk past? You go, what gorilla? Yes. I was counting the balls. Well, it's the same with this. Keep your eye on the bouncy balls. The guy's holding them up in the foreground. Now, literally, I said it's within millimeters. One of the balloons is overlapping the example. Like, literally, it's right behind it. Couldn't be any closer. But I didn't see it. Even when it was right there and I'd paused it, I'm like, what balloons?
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah. Yes, sir. Everyone gets the point, hopefully, that he's with Veritasium.
Are they really that stupid?
Veritasium says, which is why all objects fall at the same rate. And just behind the guy, he's got helium balloons that are restrained from going up. That was classic.
Those are there deliberately.
Say again?
I think those are there deliberately. You can't be that dumb.
You can. If I struggle to spot it, and I am literally looking to find flaw in his presentation, then how can your average Joe normally, who's nodding along hypnotized, the pre-indoctrinated notion of a downward bias keeping us from floating off the surface of Earth as it spins in their head, when they hear him talk about gravity not being a force, being the bending fourth dimensional pseudo-Riemannian force space-time invented by Einstein, and then here's the mathematics, in ignoring entirely the, I can't remember the term now, the tensor calculus. What's the term? Bloody hell, I could have almost sounded smart then for a second.
Differential invariant?
It was on the tip of my tongue the whole time. It's the differential invariant calculus tensus. Anyway, the point is, he's put the maths up. He's told us it's not that important how nonsensical it is to have us with respect to time, but then having our rate of acceleration with respect to time also. So time is in the same maths equation. 3 things. I said it was just 2. It's your rate, and then your rate with respect to time, even though the rate would be including time anyway in terms of its description of speed or a rate of acceleration, is already with respect to time. But that over time, and then that in the compared to the first part of the equation, where he's got your position as a time dimension. So your position with respect to time, which he later crosses out and says it's 0. So it's your 0 position in 4D space with respect to time at 0. Like, okay, I am following along with what you're telling me. What you're telling me is just baffling 99% of the people with bullshit. Yes, I can keep up with what you term each of these little letters and symbols in your maths. I'm not that thick when it comes to maths. Notwithstanding the fact that none of it makes any sense. And at the end of him pointing this total garbage out that makes absolutely no sense, he says, don't worry about the details.
Yeah.
His audience.
Yeah.
Like, what? You're about to tell him about stuff always having a bias downwards. After going through maths that makes no sense, that puts you, with respect to time as a dimension, at 0. You're telling me not to worry about it. Yeah, well, most people will just go, I didn't really understand what he just said about time and rates of speed, which is in respect to time, and how my position in a dimension is respect to time, but at 0 when I cross it out. Most people won't have followed that. When he then drops a ball and goes, yeah, but don't worry, all things go to the ground. Oh, yeah, okay. We're not going to be looking at the balloons, are we? Or was it Neil that said that?
It was me.
Most people aren't looking for the gorilla. That's the bottom line.
No, but what I'm saying is I think they deliberately have it there. I think they're sort of like mocking us or mocking the heliocentrists. I don't know what you want to call it.
But like I said to Anthony, if we're not going to spot it, why would he? I mean, if you're under the misapprehension that Veritasium's anything other than a stout and devout heliocentrist, you're wrong. Defending pseudo-4 space and baffling his audience with bullshit to make the end conclusion that all objects tend towards the ground. So that's just him invoking the exact same magic trick. Being smart with his conclusion that gravity is not a force. Like, you think that's clever? Why? What? Because we've also been saying it for a number of years, and the anti-flat earthers, who are essentially globe heretics, deny the fact that globe gravity currently isn't a force. So what? He just understands the rhetoric where we've been spending years not trying to undo the claim of gravity as a non-force, just get our opponents to accept the current rhetoric, because then we can pummel it. Unfortunately, that's why I say I don't care what Simon Dan or Dave McKeegan or Blue Marble Science or any of those guys have got to say in response to anything we do. I don't count them in the why hasn't anybody responded, because they're not globers. They're heretics. They will deny the very claim of gravity not being a force as is correctly identified in the rhetoric by Veritasium. Whoopee-doo. What, you're telling me that Veritasium can actually manage to research the current rhetoric of gravity and state it correctly? It's still wrong, though, isn't it? Now we've got to the point that we should have been at 7 years ago with anti-flat earth muppets that literally should have absolutely no value in this discussion to anybody, because they don't believe in the globe either. We finally got to the point with someone like Veritasium doing it, where we can say to our anti-flat earth opponents, so you do accept gravity as a pseudo-Riemannian force-space time bending, because that's what the current rhetoric is, and I want to pummel that! Bloody mass attracting mass 108 years out of date. Get with the bloody times.
Agreed.
Yeah, we have to drag anti-flat earthers around by their short hairs to get them to accept their own current wrong rhetoric, for us to then take apart their current wrong rhetoric. And normally just before we get to the stage where we're going to pull apart pseudo-4 space as pseudo, They start telling us, like, rinse and repeat styley, that gravity is actually a force. And who else did that? Oh, well, Veritasium. Now it's got to the point where when a glaring contradiction like that is done because the opponent, in this case Veritasium, does actually accept the current rhetoric of gravity not being a force, then you can really go to town when he drops balloons. Then you can invoke PhD Clown Thunderfoot, talk about gas go down, go boom boom. You release helium balloons in the background. You can really pummel them. But with the anti-flat earthers who think they're being smart by saying, but it is a force. It's an emergent force. You're just idiots. You're not worth our time.
Exactly. It's been long enough that we've been teaching these idiots about their own heliocentric ball-tard. I'm sick of it.
And speaking of which, I'm sure you may have picked up on this on the recent Flat Earth debates. And although this won't happen, I'm never going to deny what I am. Yeah, I'm flat and I'm proud. And ultimately, a minor, temporary, hypothetical rebranding to make a point is in order. Which is to say, we aren't flat earthers. When you look at your stereotypical flat earther, we aren't that. That's for damn sure. What are we? Well, we're advanced heliocentrists. You have to teach low-lying dregs of society who have a vague interest in their heliocentric religious belief that they might have pricked their ears up because there's people called flat earthers out there who disagree with it. Well, we are here to teach them how their actual flat earth religion has been turned into a globe faith. Because that's all it is. They don't know or understand about the flat earth bit. That's just an aspect of their religion that they haven't yet been taught. We are effectively advanced heliocentrists who have spent quite a number of years training dumb heliocentrists, heretics who don't know their own globe religion, what their globe religion actually is. Now, that is the ideal. That's the best situation for the powers that should not be the hidden hand that may not exist. For us to be arguing with heliocentric deniers, that's anti-flat earthers, like your Simon Dans and your Craigs, your Blue Marble Sciences. Well, that's the ideal, that we argue with them, trying to educate them about how the bloody globe works. Unfortunately, I was quite normally unhappy about that. Why do I spend so much of my time educating heliocentrists about what they actually believe? You know, well, that's been all worthwhile now. Rejoice, because teaching them how their heliocentric religion works has led us to how their heliocentric religion works with a flat plane elevation angle measurement to Polaris to give them their grid system. Well, isn't that fortunate? It was a benefit to teaching you Muppets how heliocentrism works after all. Now we're at the origin and it's flat.
Speaking about morons, Mazar Salim out in chat. This is what he wrote. Gases aren't a physical object.
So let me get it straight to the person in the chat. When you have frost on a windscreen, because the air temperature's changed and there's a lot of moisture in it, and it just attaches itself to your windscreen, is that because the water vapor in the air wasn't physical?
It's not that it's even wrong. What would compel you, right, just to talk out your ass that incoherent third grader would just they'd belly laugh at you? What are the 4 physical states of matter? There's a couple more, but we just deal with the 4 physical states of matter.
Solid, liquid, gas, and plasma?
Yeah. You're finished right there. Yeah. I don't, it just, I looked over and I seen it and it got me off my game.
This is the problem with dealing with heretics and anti-flat earthers. They've got a surface level understanding of almost every single subject. And if it means that they can contradict a flat earther, they will talk the biggest embarrassing load of nonsense you can imagine from chat or on a video. Like I say, that's why they're worthless. And there's no consequences. Absolutely no consequences whatsoever. Talking total nonsense online. Being wrong on the internet. Consequences, 0.
Yep. Well, he just received some consequences. So everyone knows right now, Mazar, that you're a delusional Dunning-Kruger muppet that probably couldn't tie his shoes without assistance from a fleet of slobber nurses. That's how bad that comment was. I mean, I've heard
himself.
some. Go ahead.
Sorry, he's just redeemed himself from chat. He says, gases move freely in all directions, I agree. All right, so you also understand implicitly that there is no outer space sky vacuum then, that they've lied to you about travelling to the moon and travelling to Mars, and putting things in orbit. You understand that?
How can they move in all directions when they're not physical objects?
I think he's just moved past that, given the correction. He's accepted that, and now he's talking about the physical objects that we breathe in and out of our lungs, moving freely in all directions, and therefore debunking outer space.
You don't have to apologize. He apologized. You don't have to apologize to me. You have to apologize to everyone that read that stupidity. I mean, that's preposterous, sir. You know, have you ever heard this mantra before? It's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than open up your incoherent blowhole and remove all doubt. Remember the story I used to tell Nathan? This is right on topic with my buddy, the expert mechanic. Right? I would be, there'd be, where'd Johnny go? Right? I'm right back there. I got my pie hole shut because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm not going to add anything to the discussion, and I'm damn sure not going to make a fool out of myself. You should take that lesson. It's a powerful lesson. My word. All right. Where are we at? Let's go here. Let's get into it. How about that? We're going to get there, Adam. This time. There she is. Let's go for it. And by the way, the Globe Terminator website. Listen, folks, you need to use this. This is gold, right? It got proofs of the creator. We're going to get to that here in the next few weeks. Right here along the left side, flat earth proofs. You don't have to click on it. It pulls up a submenu for you. It got a sextant, the Black Swan flight, Bolivian salt flats, the ESSM Block 1, Sea Sparrow, Coriolis effect, and no vacuum of space, which we're going to do today. Right? It's listed right there for you. 1, 2, 3, ABC. There's nothing anyone can do about it. Right? You can also click on it, right? And it'll take you to another page that has them all listed. Like this one. So just scroll down, right? And let your fingers do the walking, and then click, bam! Well, no vacuum of space. You see how that dropped out from the sky? Yeah, because it's the second law of thermodynamics violation. That's a natural law violation. Like I said, like I titled it, this is the HelioTARDs are utterly destroyed by this itty-bitty common fact, natural law, the second law of thermodynamics. You guys know it. It's the one that was brought to me back in May of 2016. Had to be because I arrived on the scene May 15th. May 14th, 2016, somebody posted an argument to me. Very simple argument, because I was on the forum and they've been following me, and I would go on and on and on destroying evotards with the second law of thermodynamics. So this gentleman or lady, I don't know which, just made a simple statement, and I don't know where they got it from, but they put the heels to me, and they knew I couldn't get out of it, right? So, yeah, we got a vacuum of space next to air pressure. How is that possible? Well, what could I say? That was it for me. There's no comeback. There's no ad hom. I could try that little maneuver. That's just not in my nature. I sat there and thought about that simple question, and I said, it's all over. Of course, I already knew all the pseudosciences at that point, right? I had them all listed even years before that, right? So as soon as I seen that, everything coalesced. Fong! That was it. I was flat earther in less than a Planck time. this argument right here. So it's one of my favorites. I don't know if it's faster than the angles to Polaris or the elevation angles. It's not. But this has some teeth, and there's no way they can get around it. Even somebody just with a surface deep knowledge of the second law of thermodynamics and entropy, it's all over. So with that, and this is how it came. Now I want to caveat this because it was on my website. I left atmospheric pressure in here. I did that for a reason. I didn't want to go down the trail of showing how it's an oxymoron or paradox because most of the public, I was thinking about, the Joe Normies and the Sally bread makers getting on this site, so I didn't emphasize the atmospheric paradox, just in case you were wondering. But I digress. So, number one, and this is actually it. How do you have gas pressure that is atmospheric pressure, oxymoron, but I digress, without a container to begin with when, from the University of Elmhurst Chemistry Department, the pressure of a gas is the force that the gas exerts on the walls of its container? It's just, that's it. That's all the argument is. It's over right there. Because I can't wait. They're going to come up with a yarn, and it's going to be stupid. Because you can't have gas pressure in an open system. Duh. Married bachelors are more tenable. So basically, I want them to please explain how they can have tire pressure without the tire. Essentially, that's the argument. There's no way out of this argument, folks. They try, and it's pretty funny. So how can you have vacuum, outer space, attached or adjacent to a non-vacuum Earth without a physical barrier in the same system simultaneously without bludgeoning to a bloody pulp the laws of entropy? That is the second law of thermodynamics. That's the more formal argument. In other words, how are you... Go ahead.
I was just shouting. I couldn't help myself. You can't.
Yeah, it's impossible. Unless you take the second law back to the woodshed and start to bludgeon it. It's the only way you can do it. You're going to get laughed at. But most people, they don't really care about that. They'll redefine the second law of thermodynamics. Good luck with that. And I like this one. In other words, how are you still breathing and adhering to your fairy tale religion both at the same time? That's another paradox. Then define the law of contradiction, like I stated. Then please list, this is another very important point that may be lost on some people. Then please list each fairy tale associated with outer space that gets taken out back to the woodshed and bludgeoned senseless as a result of the fairy tale vacuum of space vaporizing. That's everything, folks. Everything dealing with outer space. If you take away that vacuum, it all collapses. Everything. So I don't even have to waste my time. We do because it's fun. Talking about redshift and all those types of things. I like doing that because it always leads to a train wreck. But I don't have to do that. I could just bring up the medium and it's all over. And this is kind of fun. How in the world did the Earth form an atmosphere, contradiction in terms, paradox, at all in a vacuum? How is that possible? I'd like to hear that one. I said from a big bang? You gotta be kidding me. Have you ever heard nature abhors a vacuum by chance? Wonder what they're referring to with that statement. Why is that? Oh, by Arthur Eddington from 1930, page 74. If your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for your theory but to collapse in the deepest humiliation. I don't think I can be any more clear than that. You? Now let's go over some of the BALLBUSTERS comebacks. This is from the days of yore. And we still hear these today, don't we? Here's the number one. You know what it is. But we have gas pressure gradients, QE. Why do spinning space monkeys, that's trademarked, by the way, continue to wholesale dodge the very simple question to support their fairy tale religion. Why they do that? This is the question. How do you have gas pressure without a container? The Rhodes Scholars' comeback. Why isn't there a container between Mount Everest and sea level debacle? Right? The brain surgeons actually think this triple your pleasure fallacy is a reasoned response to the question. I'll break out the crayons, as long as you don't munch them. Which comes first? Number 1, gas pressure, that's X, or number 2, gas pressure gradients, delta X. I know that's difficult for some people. Get the Adderall drip out. Which comes first, X or delta X? There can't be a delta X before there's an X, folks. Because delta means change. So a change in X before you have the X. In other words, krijtjesweters, that's crayon munchers in Dutch. Before number 2, number 1 must frigging exist. So again, back to the beginning. How do you have gas pressure without a container, please? Yep, that's the end of that one. Brain Dead Ballers, their next foray into the genre. Can you show us the container, QE? And or what is the container made of? I never anticipated those rigorous intellectual questions. Are they gotchas or something? What's up with the male symbol up here? Don't they think about this? It's necessary antecedent consequent game. I love this one because this buries them. It's quite simple. The consequent gas pressure, necessary antecedent container. Just like the consequent filet mignon and the necessary antecedent cow. You see, if it's already clearly established, that means factual, that to have filet mignon, cows must exist, then if someone slaps a filet mignon down on a dinner table, then I know with absolute certainty that a cow must have existed or exist without ever seeing or needing to see a cow or the data for a cow. How much it weighs, what's its color, how long its tail, how's its hoof prints. It doesn't matter. It's incoherent red herring fallacies. That's irrelevant diversions. That's i.e., that is, gas or air pressure is filet mignon in this scenario, and the container's the cow. Get it? If you don't, raise your hand. I'll have Tommy come back with a tack hammer and slap you around a little bit with it because you're retarded. As again, I know it's difficult for ball-tard spinning space monkeys, that's trademarked, and their ilk to process this. Have one of your slobber nurses explain it to you. How about that? There's another baller's claim. The Earth is a containerless, open, pressurized system. But their evidence? A walk outside. How many times have we heard this train wreck of a dumpster fire? The Elmer Fudd circle jerk of the millennium. Mr. Magoo is blushing, folks. Tantamount to the wind is generated by black holes interacting with dark energy. My evidence? Walk outside. My word. Gas behavior. Let's go back to the chemistry department. Okay, good.
Is there going to be any little gaps for us to make comment? I just haven't made notes and I don't want to forget what I'm...
No, go ahead. Go ahead. This is a good spot to take a break. Go.
Those 3 that you just listed are 2 concessions and a begging the question fallacy.
Yep.
The first one is, but we have gas pressure quantum eraser, right?
Yep.
But we have gas pressure gradients. Sorry. Quantum eraser.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's a begging the question fallacy. So straight off the bat, you're saying, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Their response, which starts with the prerequisite understanding that there is no container because that's their worldview, is to say, we have gas pressure. Therefore, they're automatically just begging the question of gas pressure without a containment when they ask you or phrase the fact that we have a gas pressure gradient in any way, shape, or form. Just begging the question. The second one is a concession. So when they ask, that is an automatic acceptance of the requirement for containment to have gas pressure. Now, my response in that circumstance is, oh, so like me, the devout flat earther, you too now have questions about what the sky is, given your now understanding that we must have that container you're asking me about in order to be breathing. So, like me, you've got questions. That's very interesting. Sod off and go and see if you can find the answer to them. But glad you've conceded. When you ask me what the container is, you understand there must be one for us to be breathing. Now, the last one, which is pretty much the same as the first one, which is just go outside, is, again, just a begging the question fallacy. So, how can you have gas pressure without a container? We have gas pressure is the inference that we're making when we do that. And when they go outside, we have gas pressure. It's like, yeah, so your response is to say, in answer to the question, how do you have gas pressure without a container? We have gas pressure without a container. That's their answer.
Yep. Not there. It's not. That's not an answer. You haven't answered the question. You didn't do anything. When everyone knows that you have to have gas container for gas pressure. So back to gas behavior. Again, we're going to the chemistry department at Purdue University this time. Particles in a gas vibrate and move freely at high speeds. From sciencelearn.org, the atoms and molecules in gases are much more spread out than in solids or liquids. They vibrate and move freely at high speeds. A gas will fill any container, but if the container is not sealed, the gas will escape. Very important point right here. See this term will? What does that mean? We got to break it down for knuckle dragging ball-tards. Allow me to define will. Here we go for the window-looking knuckle draggers. Will, it's a modal verb expressing the future tense. You get it. It will, depending on many different factors, but it will escape and increase entropy. What's the next definition I need to define for you? Run, you bozos? Okay, run. Move at a speed faster than a walk. Never having both or all feet on the ground at the same time. Do you get it? Clowns. Let's get into what is gas pressure. This ought to be very interesting, I would imagine. Back to chemistry at Elmhurst. The chemistry department at Elmhurst. The pressure of a gas is the force that the gas exerts on the walls of its container. Uh-oh. You're in big trouble, ball-tards. Kinetic molecular theory, explanation of Boyle's gas law. Listen closely. Observation about pressure may be explained using the following ideas. The rapid motion and the collisions of molecules with the walls of the container. You see this word right here? You're finished. Causes pressure, force on a unit area. That causes, destroys the entire heliocentric ball-tard religion. Right there. It's over. Pressure is proportional to the number of molecular collisions and the force of the collisions in a particular area. The more collisions of gas molecules with the what? The walls. The walls of what? The higher the pressure. Duh. I'll just let NASA take care of everything. How about that? The molecules are in constant random motion and frequently collide with each other and with the walls of a container. Because the molecules are in motion, a gas will expand to fill the container. Since density is defined to be the mass divided by the volume, density depends directly on the size of the container in which a fixed mass of gas is confined. So we have one sentence, two sentences, three sentences. How many times is container mentioned? 3 frigging times. That doesn't mean anything, all right? From Chem Liber text, here we go again. Pressure is caused. And they're talking about gas pressure here, folks, not shark pipe pressure. Pressure is caused by gas molecules hitting the walls of the container. You're toast. It's all over. With a smaller volume, the gas molecules will hit the walls more frequently, and so the pressure increases. You don't say. So the necessary antecedents that cause gas pressure are, number one, the rapid motions and collisions of molecules. Collisions with what? Pray tell. Two, the walls of the container. This is quite elementary. Take either one or number two away, those necessary antecedents, and you don't have gas pressure. The consequent. Simple. No amount of linguistic or mathematical acrobats will change it. None. By the way, newsflash, you can't have volume without a container. So say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. That's trademark too. Right down here.
That's something.
Yeah, go ahead.
The NASA one is my favorite by far, because you could literally have an overlay of the claim to be sphere Earth from space. You read out that definition. So they qualify every aspect that debunks that picture, which is to say that volume is the area that the gas can fill. Well, when you're looking back, claim to be in a spacesuit holding a camera, well, they're defining the pressurized system that is the spacesuit. Okay? What's he taking a picture of? Earth without containment in a area of volume that the gas isn't filling. It's defying their own description of what gas pressure is.
Yep.
When you look at a picture of Earth from space.
Yep.
There's no containment for the gas that's being shown in the image, be contained by, to have pressure with. It violates their own pictures of Earth from space, that definition, from NASA.
Spinning space monkeys. Trademark. From their alma mater wiki. Boyle's law, sometimes referred to as the Boyle-Mariotte law, or Mariotte's law, especially in France, is an experimental gas law that describes how the pressure of a gas tends to increase as the volume of the container decreases. Sort of inversely proportional. So, chemistry department, Penn State University, Boyle's law, or the pressure volume law, states that the volume of a given amount of gas held at constant temperature varies inversely with the applied pressure when the temperature and mass are constant. And it gives this formula. V is proportional to 1 over P. That's just the inverse, folks. So V is proportional to the inverse of P, in other words. Question. Gotta love this. How can you have volume without a container? See that V right there? Huh? PV equal nRT, ring a bell, clowns? Hey, from Wikipedia, their alma mater. Watch this one. Volume is the quantity of three-dimensional space enclosed by a closed surface. For example, the space that a substance, solid, liquid, gas, or plasma, or shape occupies or contains. Volume is often quantified numerically using the SI-derived unit, the cubic meter. The volume of a container is generally understood to be the capacity of the container. That is, the amount of fluid, gas, or liquid that the container could hold, rather than the amount of space the container itself displaces. How many times is container mentioned in 1, 2, 3 sentences? 3 sentences. A container is mentioned implicitly. 1, enclosed by a closed surface. That's a container. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You get it yet? I doubt it. Psst. Say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. Again. Oh, there she is. PV equal nRT. You see that V up there? You're going to have some problems. This is the ideal gas law. Essentially, it's just a generalization of Boyle's gas law. You see that V again? You see this V right here? That's a problem. You know what that means? Volume. Show V without a container. Question, how can you have volume without a container? Do I need to go
I'll just
through
step
this?
in again. I'm
Yeah.
really sorry to interrupt. right
No,
in the
go
middle.
ahead.
This is where the problem lies for your anti-flat earther. When you described in the presentation earlier, they go outside and go, well, look at the sky. That's us having gas pressure without a container. In other words, like Nazi propaganda, if you make the lie big enough, which is to have a literal second law of thermodynamics violation picture of Earth from space without containment, and if you've shown it to people, they will buy the lie. And therefore, they say, well, that's what Earth is. Earth is a second law of thermodynamics violation. There's my example. I mean, I'm not looking back at Earth from space, but that's as I understand it to be. Therefore, that's my example. It's how the indoctrinated can beg the question so easily. Because the lies they've been told, I stress so much that NASA astronauts, almost said astronauts as a ass focus, but we won't. They are liars. No two ways about it. And the reason people beg the question so easily when it comes to gas pressure without a container and say, well, we have gas pressure gradients, it's because they've been lied to on such a massive scale by astronauts. That's why it's so objectionable, and why I'm not in the slightest bit concerned about calling them frauds, scumbags, all the names under the sun, because that is exactly what they are. Reason people beg the question that you can have gas pressure without a container in violation of a law of nature is because they've been shown it. As simple as that. They've been lied to on a massive scale. Therefore, they can beg the question that that is just the case in violation of a natural law. Why wouldn't it be? I've got a picture of it. You haven't. Picture's violating the law I'm defining. Oh, the picture proves the law doesn't exist. It's their attitude. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to get that in.
No, it's good. And like I always say, you got one of two choices. Number one, either they're lying or the second law of thermodynamics is false. That's your two choices. That's a true dichotomy also. I'd like somebody to answer that, please. Rhetorical, not for the panel.
Liars. No, it was rhetorical.
Yeah. Spinning Space Monkeys trademark. We're going to spend a little, maybe one more after this. Boyle's gas law, otherwise known as the pressure volume law, for a I think this is from their alma mater wiki. Yes. For a fixed mass of gas at constant temperature, the volume is inversely proportional to the pressure. We went over that above. This is mathematically PV. Uh-oh, we got V here. Lucy's got some splaining to do. Where P denotes the pressure of the system, V denotes the volume of the gas, and K is the constant value representative of the temperature and the volume of the system. Question, how can you have volume without a container? You can't. So it's over. It's as simple as that. I mean, there's nothing, I don't need to do any theatrics. Just straightforward. Say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. That easy. Entropy. This is a killer. Absolute killer. From the late, great Professor Frank Lambert at Occidental College, who changed the definition of entropy in all the chemistry textbooks. I remember this back in the day, by the way, but I digress. Listen closely. Gas expansion into a vacuum. That's really important. Right in our lane. The mixing of ideal gases or liquids, diffusion, effusion, colligative effects, and osmosis. Each fundamentally involves an increase in entropy due to increased dispersion of energy with no change in total energy in the case of ideal substances due to the greater number of microstates for the particular system involved. Doesn't matter. You could stop right here. Gas expansion into a vacuum fundamentally involves an increase in entropy. You got a problem. 1, according to the fairy tale narrative, there's a vacuum surrounding your spinning ball space monkey. Number 2, we obviously have gas pressure. Number 3, the Earth is not a sealed container. Number 4, the gas pressure is not expanding, not expanding into a vacuum. Ergo, the ball-tard spinning space monkey Earth defies the laws of entropy and is in direct violation of it. Simple. Remember this little gem from Arthur S. Eddington? If your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, which the BALLBUSTERS non-scientific theory is, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for your theory but to collapse in the deepest humiliation. Like I said, spinning space monkeys, Sir Arthur here is serenading you. You're finished. Oh, and containers. ScienceLearn.org. The atoms and molecules in gases are much more spread out than in solids or liquids. They vibrate and move freely at high speeds. A gas will fill any container, but if the container is not sealed, the gas will escape. We already went over this above. When I went over define, there's one of the BALLBUSTERS that have a particular problem with this. He doesn't know what will means. Don't need to mention him. He's an idiot. University of North Carolina. Gases behave differently from the other two commonly studied states of matter, solids and liquids. So we have different methods for treating and understanding how gases behave under certain conditions. Gases, unlike solids and liquids, have neither fixed volume nor shape. Uh-oh. There goes that atmosphere. They are molded entirely by the container in which they are held. Shocking. Back to chemistry at Elmhurst. The pressure of a gas is the force that the gas exerts on the walls of its container. NASA, we did this before. I'm not going to do it again. Let's go down to school tutoring. This is for special needs. Gas. It has no shape or size of its own. It takes the shape of its container and occupies the space given to it. Very simple. Open and closed systems. Haven't heard too much about this. I think we've drugged the spinning ball space monkey religioners around by their short hairs enough with this to just embarrass them to death. Let's go ahead and define these systems, right? I got from Chem Libre Text and the Khan Academy. We'll go tit for tat. An open system is a system that freely exchanges energy and matter with its surroundings. From the Khan Academy, an open system can exchange both energy and matter with its surroundings. Pretty good agreement right there. They're saying the same thing, right? On to the closed system. A closed system, on the other hand, that they're going to throw you a curveball. That's what means on the other hand is it's going to be different from what they previously stated. A closed system, on the other hand, can exchange only energy with its surroundings, not matter. Let's check Chem Libre Text. A closed system is a system that exchanges, there's that word again, only energy with its surroundings, not matter. Looks like pretty much the same definition, right? An isolated system is one that cannot exchange either matter or energy with its surroundings. From Chem Libre Text, an isolated system does not exchange energy or matter with its surroundings. So does everyone understand this, right?
No, it's not rhetorical, but quick shout out to Unitox Femu for smashing the super chat. He says, natural law is lying. People are trusted. Yippee! Also shout out to Skeptic936, who sends you $10 and just says channel support. Thank you very much, fellas, for the super chats.
Appreciate that, guys. My wife appreciates it more. I'll tell you that much. Thank you very much. Back to the open, closed, and isolated systems. I know you guys don't hear this much anymore. Like I said, we silver bulleted them because there's no way they can get around this. Oh, by the way, there are no isolated systems in nature. So if somebody comes up to you and says, oh, the second law only applies to isolated systems, then how can you have a second law of thermodynamics, which is a natural law, not apply to nature? Idiot space monkey claims. I think we're on to some more. Number one, because there is very little matter exchange between Earth and space, the Earth is essentially a closed system. That male symbol. Did you hear what he just said? I think this might have been Professor Phil. Or Phil. Numpty Phil. I'll say it again. Because there is very little matter exchange between the Earth and space, the Earth is essentially a closed system. That's not what a closed system is. Only energy with its surroundings, not matter. Only, so I have to define these terms for him. See, only used to show that something is limited to not more than or is not anything other than the people, things, amount, or activity stated. Do you get that, balltards? Here it is again, only as a single factor instance and nothing more. Nothing, no thing, or different. And not. Just to tie a bow around it, not. What not means. Used as a function word to make negative a group of words or a word. Oh, and by the way, science alert, even in their fairy tale spinning space monkey religion, Earth loses hundreds of tons of atmosphere to space every day. By definition, your fairy tale ball Earth is an open system. Simple. Oh, I knew who stated this. The late George Hnechek. Number 2, a closed system is like a simile, an isolated system in engineering. Oh, really? Anne-Marie Helmstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. A closed system is a concept used in thermodynamics, physics, and engineering, so took them both in, and in chemistry. It differs from an isolated system. So in direct contradiction. Spinning space monkeys. Trademark. Say goodbye to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. And one last thing. And it's not that. It is that. This is Timmy. Now, if you're a spinning ball-tard space monkey, if you're driving or walking down the road and you just happen by Timmy out here pumping up his tire, flat tire that he just sealed, whatever, you must stop him from doing this because he's destroying your spinning space monkey religion. Does everyone see it? You have to come up.
Rhetorical, but the rhetorical question is a useful opportunity for me to shout out Unitox Femi or Sasha, who says, "This is for the wife." Gives you a thumbs up and $5.
Appreciate it. The ball-tards have to stop Timmy and scold him about the tire being wrapped around there. They need to tell him to remove that tire, then continue to put it around the rim. This is what it comes down to, folks. This is as simple as I can make it. And it's as right as the rain. The end. Questions, comments?
His usual responses in the chat. So we had one guy that was saying, an aeroplane wing can create a gas pressure differential. And you're like, yeah, you're not paying attention to what we're covering on the show. First, in order to have that scenario with the plane and the wing and the differential and the Bernoulli effect and lift, what do you need for that to happen? Well, first, you need gas pressure. You've got to have the gas pressure to have that effect demonstrated and described. You ask me how that's happening without containment? No. First, containment. Then you achieve gas pressure. Then be able to achieve a differential in the gas pressure that required containment, to give you your example with the plane wing. So it doesn't matter if you cause gas pressure differentials within contained gas. First, you must have containment. Then you can achieve gas pressure. Then you can achieve the Bernoulli effect within that gas pressure that required containment. I hope that's clear for all you fundies that think you can just say, what about a gas pressure gradient? That still requires gas pressure, doesn't it? My God, they're thick.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
S. Ramsey from the chat. The panel is indeed open and you can join the show. There is a link below. I'm sure QE does say it in the intro, but he forgot to even plug his own PayPal link, so maybe he didn't mention that. Yeah, if you want to join the show, there's an open link. Like with Flat Earth Debate, it's just a different link to a different part of the same server. We're going to do a little shout out to our illustrious lever, Lever? Leader? Betty Van Velsen? It is Van, isn't it?
Yes.
I thought so. I can remember getting it wrong once. Betty Van Velsen is our leader.
Our leader.
She is the boss, so to speak. As much as when we are taking the mickey out of her and making jabs about her being a woman and things, because there's not very many of them about in this genre. No, it's just a fact. Just get used to it. Anyway, one of the reasons we push those boundaries is because they are actually boundaries for us. I just want to make that clear because some people might not have got the right idea about what we're doing. It's like when you're at work, if you work in an office and you jab the general manager, something he's done a little bit wrong. In other words, you're not pushing the boundary enough to get fired. Having a little bit of a jab at someone who's in superiority, is that the right word? Superior to you. That's what it is. Just don't get the wrong end of the stick if you think we're actually trying to insult Betty, because we're not. It's all done in the lightest. It's done in the nicest possible way when we're being derogatory and misogynistic and sexist, and it's hyper exaggerated is the point I'm trying to get at. Anyway, I want to do a shout out to her because of the amount of bloody work she does. So, Betty's out there and she's been out there longer than almost all of us. That's something else that people may not realise about our illustrious leader, Betty, which is that she's been around longer than you have. I don't know who you are, but she's been around longer than you. just let it be known. She's been arguing and doing the debate circuit better than I can, longer than I have, and before I was even here. Just let it be known. Shout out to you, Betty. We all love you. You're ace.
He is ace.
We'd normally shouting out the super chats, but there's a link, and it's as a result of her server, which is fantastic, and the good work that her and all the fantastic moderators that she's put in place to do their jobs that we've got this amazing link to the public so that you can, if you choose to, join this show and contradict anything that's being said here. So if you choose to, you can join by that link. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works if you're a member of the public joining, but I'm assuming it's really easy. And then you can just contradict us, say whatever you like in this BALLBUSTERS format, like Flat Earth Debate, if you're familiar with that, which you might not be. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley.
Hey, just real quick, if I could jump in real quick.
Sure.
I was listening to the show on YouTube. Good job, by the way. Good stuff. But in the comments, this one person said something about there is no photos of the container because it doesn't exist. It really made me think, so I wanted to jump in and say it here for whoever's listening. Have you seen those really cool, like, artistic, I guess these people they make stuff like in
I'm sorry. Didn't I go over this with the cow?
I probably, but I was just saying, like, to give them a visual, like
I thought my visual was perfect.
Yeah. But obviously it wasn't enough because they're still saying it doesn't exist.
Well, I don't care after that. Don't care after that. I'm serious. I don't care after. If they don't get that, they're retarded. Just raise your hand with the cow.
Right.
Just raise your hand, and I'll have Tommy come back and hit you in the head with a tack hammer. Don't give him another example. That one's just fine.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. No worries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. Another thing too. Another guy that's talking about the pressure, the gas pressure. And then someone said, well, you still need to be pushing up against something to have that gradient. One thing that also comes to mind is a coker. And I don't know if maybe they don't know what a coker is, but I would suggest maybe they should go look into it, because in a coker you will have a natural gradient that was caused by the pressure and the heat to have a byproduct of these certain things that are put into a coker. But the point of that, though, the main point is all of that even in that gradient, it's still in the coker itself, a container, a silo of sorts.
Yep.
So I don't know. These guys who are in the comments, I'm just trying to point that out. But anyways, go on.
You need a phrase, and it's perfect timing because while you were talking that, I was responding to people in the chat. This is the phrase. Okay, write this down, fundies. And if you're a flat earther debating this, just remember this phrase. It's just gone by in the chat. You can't have a gas pressure gradient without a container either. End
Yep.
quote. That's it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what the example they gave. The most recent one, let's just read it, because although it's exactly the same argument, I think it's a new example that I'd not heard before, or a new use of it. Just give me a second, because that's why I wrote it. I can't remember. Somebody mentioned a specific plane was unable to generate lift at a certain altitude. I don't remember what the plane was. There we go. Where is the air pressure at 67 miles altitude where the X-15's wings no longer provided lift? So my response, so not enough gas pressure, open brackets requiring containment, close brackets, for lift, eh? Yeah, first you need containment, then you can have gas pressure, then you can have a gas pressure gradient to ask me about the effects on lift. Containment will always be the antecedent-consequent relationship when it comes to gas pressure. Doesn't matter what example you throw at us.
Who asked that? Who stated that?
Eric. Sorry, Eric. Got a name and shame, mate.
Eric, let me scroll back up. Eric, is that Eric Appelt? Dude, do you know that you're supposed to spit the toothpaste out? Were you aware of that? Did your parents teach you that? My God, sir. That's all I
love
have.
your fluoride jokes. What is it with you and the? It's probably about the 20th time. I'm going to pretend like it's the 3rd, and I've not just let it slide. What is it with you and fluoride?
Well, what do you mean, me and fluoride? That's the first time I've made that statement in a long time.
I'm just joking. I could probably. No way. You've mentioned fluoride. What's the phrase you've used in the past? Mainlining fluoride, I think, is the term that you'll often use.
No, mainlining Adderall.
There's one that you say with fluoride.
Do it really? You're gonna have to. You're gonna
get the
have
fluoride drip or something like that.
No, that's an Adderall drip.
Oh, I'm sure there's a fluoride one.
No, there isn't a fluoride one.
Okay, well, whatever. It's a toxic heavy metal. Most people are aware of that, but there's a whole conspiracy realm around fluoride. I just didn't know if minor mention, which is obviously me imagining you mentioning it many times before. Gritted teeth.
Are you mainlining fluoride?
Are you mainlining fluoride or what, QE?
Yeah. I possibly. I could have said that a few times here and there, yeah. But not the toothpaste one. Yes, Dave Scott says, yes, the fluoride stare.
You know there's fluoride-free toothpaste too, you know?
Yeah, I do know that. Thanks for ruining it.
Good.
Okay, then. Sorry I did that. That's my bad.
Oh,
Not
and that
drawing
type
the,
of toothpaste is not recommended to be swallowed either.
So for more dental care information, you can contact your local dental advisory centre, or, we can continue this discussion into the wee hours of the morning. It's up to us, really, isn't it? I mean, we can do what we like. It's our show.
I can't believe grown adults haven't got this by now. We're in year 7. Right? I don't know. They continue to kick against the pricks. Go ahead. Somebody saying something?
And that surprises you?
Nah, because they're fanatical religious zealots. I understand that component of it, but this one is so easy. There's no comeback. There's nothing that can be done. Like I said, the only way you can refute our stance is to refute the second law of thermodynamics. It's as simple as that.
This feels incomplete, John. QE, Quantum Eraser. So what John has... What Quantum Eraser has done throughout this show is sharpened up the sword for you. So now here we are. We're at the presentation ceremony with this amazing sword, and it's clean, super shiny, super sharp, beautifully balanced. And it's just there. It's on a pillow. gleaming shiny, right? What hasn't happened is you haven't seen how effective the sword is yet. Now, with detail, or QE has detailed how second law of thermodynamics is applicable to the sky vacuum. What are the implications? I summarised them right at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to do it again now. Just to say that there's a reason why we very, very, very rarely ever cover NASA fakery, the International Space Station, the moon landings, visits to Mars, satellite technology. Why is it that you rarely, if ever, see that type of footage on Flat Earth Debate or Ballbusters? Why is it? I'll tell you. Because of this argument. Because the moment any claim, doesn't matter what the claim is or what the outrageous assertion is being made alongside the footage from the International Space Station or historic information or footage from the moon landing or future claim to be information about the ships they're sending to Mars. It doesn't matter what the claim is. They are all instantly debunked with this argument, which means that it automatically eradicates any necessity to ever discuss these things, which is why they're never discussed, to get to my point. Yeah? So, were a fundy to come and say, like we've exampled, well, of course we have gas pressure without a container. Here's a picture of Earth from space. No, my friend. That is a second law of thermodynamics violation that you're showing me. How is it that this claim to be picture of our world has achieved gas pressure in the first place? Let's have a little look, as QE's already done. He's sharpened the sword already. I don't need to repeat any of it. Let's have a look at what gas pressure is. When they get back to you, oh, we've got a gas pressure gradient, look at the photo. No, a gas pressure gradient would also require containment. That debunks every claim from space. As listed, moon landing, debunked. Why? Can't travel through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. The sky isn't a vacuum, and the journey to the moon took place in it. Let's rephrase what space is. Space is Narnia. And every time something is claimed to have taken place in Narnia, you can debunk it by pointing out that it violates a law of nature, entropy. No, it doesn't matter that you're claiming a reason why the gas lamp can eternally burn at the gateway of the wardrobe in Narnia. Narnia's not real. Yeah, and space, outer space, isn't real. Space is defined when it comes to gas pressure. It's the V QE laboured in PV equals nRT. It's the volume. When you look back at your bullshit pictures of Earth from space, what's the volume? Well, it's the area the gas can occupy. What's that in the picture of Earth in a sky vacuum? Well, the volume is all of space. Every bit of the black in that picture is an area of volume, infinite in nature, vast. The gas that you're breathing at pressure to fill. And fill it must. That's how it behaves. It's described in the law of nature. Called entropy, second law of thermodynamics. You don't have to argue about whether or not men are on high wire in the ISS. That shiny sword that quantum erasers just polished up for you is put to good effect when you chop off the head of the claimant immediately. What's that you say? There's men in a tin can on the light I can see with my telescope. No, because that would involve men traversing the gas pressure we all breathe to put themselves into an orbital motion in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. I'm done.
We'll call it a contradiction or a connection within.
Hold up 1 second. Hold up 1 second. I was on mute when I was talking. I want to shout out some super chats here. And Nathan is exactly correct, and I stressed that in the beginning after he began with it. So we got Unitox Femu. Thanks for these super chats, guys. He says, this is for wife. Yeah, thank you. Vlad on Flat Earth. Eric is on fluoride and Adderall. Yeah, we're going to see here in a second. Dave Scott, Arrow sponsorship or date night, your choice. And it's going to have to be Arrow sponsorship, Dave, for this moment in time. Hey, even Eric, you're a good sport. You took it well. He even super chatted for non-fluoride toothpaste. Yeah, I don't swallow that stuff, Eric. Unitox Femo again. You can't have a sphere without drop over distance. Well, yeah. And 5 Angels, you guys better not have samurai swords on your wall. They are equivalent to a NASA t-shirt. If you do, I'm converting back to Globetardia. Dude, buddy. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Super chat from Unitox Femu is in reference to the Johnny guy we were talking about at the beginning of the show, because he did a trip on a plane, showed that it remained level. Actually, a slight increased angle of elevation, angle of attack, sorry. But he nevertheless did what Daryl Marble or D Marble did. And then afterwards said, it's all right, there's no drop. It's all right that the plane hasn't nosed down to account for the drop at 8 inches per mile squared that's claimed to be there because gravity. And Unitox Femo, I assume, is responding to that exact thing. I'm just good with my memory in that regard, saying you can't have sphere without drop over distance. I assume that's what he's referencing, but thanks for that, Unitox Femo or Sasha.
Yeah, and I interrupted somebody. Sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead, whoever was talking that I interrupted.
Yeah, no worries. So I wanted to talk about Arthur Eddington for just a second.
Sure. Why?
You quoted him as saying, why? Because you brought him up. Excellent.
No, I brought his name up in citation, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
so I wanted to talk about him and gas pressure and Einstein, actually. So
why?
He says that if you have a theory and it goes against the second law, it has no hope, correct?
Correct.
So in 1919, if he makes an observation, assuming that he's looking into a vacuum and light is bending around, gas spheres in that vacuum, isn't he sort of going against or contradicting himself or even contradicting Einstein in that instance?
Yes. He's contradicting himself.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Point that out.
Yes.
Also, that quote has slight contextual misnomers in it when he says theory.
Yep.
Again, I know from speaking to QE, and I'm hopefully not speaking out of turn when I say this on his behalf, right? And I know from experience, these sorts of citations are not easy to find. You can spend hours trawling through various different texts to find what you're looking for when you're looking for a specific citation. Now, I've only ever quizzed QE about why this was once when it came to a specific example of the scientific method itself. And my question to him was, well, why is it so difficult to find somebody saying that scientific method is based on cause and effect reasoning after formulating a hypothesis, for instance? Why is it so difficult to find that? The answer, I'll just speak on behalf that QE gave me, was it's kind of well duh. By the time you reach a higher level of institutional education, you're expected to know that. Therefore, it's not going to be something that a higher education professor is going to be saying, because it's kind of elementary. So finding citations about this sort of basic stuff, and it is basic stuff when you're talking about higher levels of academia, isn't easy to dig out. So when you do find a citation like that, when he says, if your theory is in contradiction to the second law of thermodynamics and it has no hope, or whatever I can't remember the exact verbatim quote, but it doesn't matter. That's the context of it. When that's said, you don't go, bloody hell, why are you saying theory? Because what he actually does mean, and contextually, it's almost right, because you can make the apologetics that when he says theory, he means your ideas of the world.
Yep.
Like your theory about how you might go over a speed bump more effectively with your car. Well, I've got a theory. If I slow right down, it won't scrape the bumper. That's a good theory. Well, colloquially, that's a good theory. Unfortunately, he's in a certain category when he makes the statement, so it makes it slightly wrong, which is annoying. But I know damn well that you're not gonna find a gem like that every day. You just accept it for the minor inconsistency with what we actually put forth with the word theory. Just put it out there because sentiment is to say that if you come up with something, Murray says theory, if you come up with a theory, let's just use the same word, sod it, and that better fall in line with the descriptions of how everything works when described as working always. Because if it doesn't fall in line with how things work always, it's not bloody right, is it? Because it's got to sit in line with how things always work. Because if it doesn't sit in line with how things always work, obviously it's wrong. That's what that statement actually means.
He's also a hostile witness. So make sure you keep...
Right. Oh, well, we can throw him under the bus then, idiot. Why don't you know what theory means, idiot?
Yeah. Now, I chose the poster child that gas pressure without a container violates. That is the second law of thermodynamics. Do you know it also violates Boyle's law, Charles' law, Gay-Lussac's law, parts of Dalton's law, Avogadro's law, and Brownian motion? Does everyone follow that? There's a whole slew of trail of blood and tears behind it. That's it. Thanks.
I tend not to use them, although every now and again I'll hear you rattle off the list and I'll look up like Brownian motion to refamiliarize myself with what it is. Because I'm not 100% familiar with these laws, I don't bother using them because the second law of thermodynamics is more than adequate.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully everyone's realised the potency, not the potency, the sharpness of the sword. Let's stick to the same analogy. Realise how effective of a tool it really is. And if you're a frequent listener to Flat Earth Debate, listen to some of the stories that 10th Man tells. He's a lot more sociable of a creature than I am. You know, he actually goes out and talks to people. I knock him for it all the time. It's pure jealousy, I'm telling you. Anyway, he's out there on the road, so to speak, you know, out on the circuit of reality, talking to real people about this subject. And when he regales us with his stories of how he will subtly slip in questions about entropy law, which is what we're detailing here today, you can hear how most people aren't behaving how the seeming status quo is when you witness a debate on YouTube land or on the internet. The perception is that, oh, you'll be met with a massive amount of ridicule. And the reality isn't actually that way. When you hear, like I say, 10th Man talking about going out and just talking to normal people about this, most people are much more accepting of the reality of things like laws of nature because most people aren't stupid. When you go to social media or YouTube or whatever and see a high degree of ridicule, something that seems contradictory at the surface level, but you can see all of the consensus getting behind the contradiction, that's unnerving to the point where you think, well, there must be just something that I don't understand here. Enough for me to, well, consensus says we've got a sphere Earth in a vacuum, so we have. Move on with your day. That's the power of the comment section. My point is that when you actually get out there and just talk to normal people, not fundamentalist religious zealots with a ball belief, far more accepting of just reasonable nature descriptions than you might be led to believe if you're stuck in comments on YouTube or seeing the debates online or being in Facebook comment posts and seeing all the harshness that you'll get if you put this stuff out there in that format. You just tell next man subtly, like 10th Man does, and you might be surprised with how accepting people are of reality, because they're not stupid.
And Nathan, super chat from Nathan. Nathan, you didn't have to do that. Smash the super chat to support this channel. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
It's true. I should repeat it. Smash the super chat to support this channel.
Somebody else was trying to get in.
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead. Whoever that was.
Hello. Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I'd just like to ask a couple of questions, if I could.
Sure.
Feel free. Hopefully, Quantum Eraser won't cut you off. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. I think there's three good arguments for flat Earth in their own right, each one in its own right. The black swan, with the distance to the horizon being no more than 1.22, etc. I'm just wondering, why do you say since January 1st, 2020, when I think that photo was like 2016, wasn't it? Nathan, why do you say 2020 was the moment of the black swan? Just curious.
As it was. So the argument was formulated in 2019, just before COVID hit, and
Right.
And the actual release date for the argument formulated as a modus tollens with this quote: "If the Earth is a sphere, radius 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The distance to horizon in the black swan image is beyond the geometric limitations at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere." That came out 1st Jan 2020.
So that's a very concise way of saying it. I think before then people were just saying, "Oh, look, there's no drop. There's no 8 inches per mile squared." But this is the horizon is a whole another level of that debunking of the sphere, right?
Yeah, it puts it into the specifics of the geometric claim in the maths.
Yes.
So the 1.22 is their claim of their maths and their tangent point horizon.
Right. Okay. Look, I think each one of these arguments, the black swan, gas pressure without a container, and celestial navigation, each in their own right, is strong enough to prove the Earth is flat. I just want to understand just a little bit more about gas. I get the black swan totally. I just want, just so I can understand it from different angles. The gas pressure, I've seen it argued that the escape velocity of Earth is whatever, 11,000 meters a second or whatever it is, but gas only moves at 5,000 meters. Hence, that's why we don't have the gas getting away. But I think that the escape velocity is supposing radius and gravity, right? And that's why.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Yep. Okay, so we can, and then so those two things can be debunked, one by the black swan and one by Einstein's, thought experiments, right? And then the celestial navigation is, the star almanac that I haven't seen one, but here Brian and 10th Men, I think you, Nathan, as well, talking about it. Are there any stars in the southern part of the sky that they use for the almanac? I don't see how they could, but I don't know much about it. Do you know if they use
there are
southern
southern
stars?
navigation stars in the almanac, absolutely.
Right, like pointing towards the south, or from the south looking towards the equator?
When you say from the south, what do you mean? What your position would be
Like
if you were south of the equator?
Yeah, if you're sailing in the Great Southern Ocean or something, right? You wouldn't look at stars further south to get navigation, would you? You need to look at ones towards the north.
Yeah, and there's a second set of stars for a second chart you would use for the south. There's 2 different charts, but yeah, there's absolutely southern navigation stars that appear in the almanac. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I didn't know. I've never seen one. So, and when I go looking for stuff, all I get, there's a lot of just globe defense of this sort of thing. Once you start looking, I guess they're on to people looking into it, and so it's hard to find the right info without having a globe bias. I just want to get the real deal on what's going on. Just
on the contrary, well, that's one of the beautiful things about looking up celestial navigation. Again, kudos to 10th Man for pointing this out. The principles that are involved, they're all flat Earth principles, no matter how you dice them. So while you're going through any source in that regard, it'll always be referencing a flat plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's one thing I was thinking when I first heard this put forward, the celestial navigation, is when they made the stars, they didn't care whether the Earth was a globe or a sphere. Just when they made the star almanac, they just plotted what they saw in the sky at different times. If it was made on a globe, then that almanac would work on a globe, right?
Well, you can take the grid system that they've developed with the origin of Polaris, and you can take that grid and wrap it around any shape you like, including a globe.
Right. Okay. So how would you draw a circle of equal altitude on a Mercator map around Polaris?
You don't. The lines have been straightened out. So when they draw a path on the Mercator that you're traveling, if you're traveling in a straight line on the Mercator, the way it will actually plot out on that map is curved. Because what you've done is you've taken what were concentric circles and then straightened them out. The path that you actually take on the map is then curved, where the grid lines that were originally circular are now straight. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. The Mercator has the grid lines are all equal numbers of nautical miles apart from each other, aren't they? North and south, east and west.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Right. I can see where this questioning is going, and I'm going to shift uncomfortably in my seat. So the first thing that I did when I got to this subject with Martin Liedtke, shout out to Flat Earth British, aka Martin Liedtke, was look at all the maps. There's thousands of them, and they're all distorted. So if you're now going to start moving on to how it works in the south, I'm going to run out of answers really quickly here.
Oh, no, I'll stay with it. I'm obviously in the south, but I'll keep it to the north. Yeah. Now I forgot what I was going to ask. Yeah.
My bad. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Good. Okay. Well, look, that answers a few questions. Thank you for your time, and
if you remember the other question, if you feel free to chime back in if you do remember what the other bit of the question was. I'm sorry if I threw you off your.
No, that's all right. No, that's all right. That's all right. Thank you. I know how to get back on here now, so I might pop back on another time. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the show.
I would reorder the order of favoritism, because you put it in. I don't know if it was an order of favoritism, but you said black swan, then gas pressure, then celestial navigation. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know if I get any flack for this, but I'm going to put celestial navigation as number 1, above the black swan and above gas pressure without a gradient, without a container, which I would actually put to number 3 as a flat earther. I'll tell you why. Maybe it requires and down 1 at number 3. It's gas pressure without a container, as covered in this show. I won't do the rest of the countdown music. The reason that's moved down a slot from number 2, from number 2 to number 3, is because it doesn't actually prove a flat Earth. It's a heliocentric debunking when you talk about gas pressure without a container.
Yep.
A rebuttal being sphere-shaped air without a container, aka atmosphere. That argument doesn't prove a flat Earth. Okay, next up, you've got the black swan. Well, a lot of the aspects of the black swan argument involve their geometry, which re-establishes the requirement for horizontal to be a straight line, which undermines a lot of the anti-flat earthers' rebuttals with level running parallel to the center of a sphere, or whatever they call it, how they phrase it. It undoes that because a lot of the geometry that's being laid down at the 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet for the tangent point horizon, aka Earth curve, that died in 2020, their geometry lays it out for us to use in terms of horizontal, in terms of us having Earth curve that they assert in Muppet Vision below surface level being what you use for celestial navigation. We'll get to that in a second. There's a lot of aspects to the black swan argument, which is also a globe debunking, useful for proving a flat Earth moving forward. Up this top 3, you're getting ever closer to the number 1 argument, which is celestial navigation, because it does so many things, not just prove that you've got to measure Earth flat and that the origins of the measurements for the models are flat. It gives the globe Earth believers an advanced knowledge of where their globe came from. And I detailed it to you earlier when I was talking about wrapping the latitude lines around a globe, or projecting out that globe onto the Mercator projection. And the Mercator projection, when they say, oh, it's a globe projection. Yeah, but the globe projections come from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. They never get to that step when they're not dealing with people like us, the advanced heliocentrists who need censorship. But that is why I would put the celestial navigation argument at the number 1 spot. Because it actually proves a flat Earth, and proves it with all heliocentric materials backing it, and shows how Earth is measured flat for all the models, therefore giving you a globe origin that we haven't ever covered until now. So for me, that's the new number 1. The celestial navigation argument is the number 1 argument now, followed by black swan, followed by gas pressure.
So if none of the maps are right, how come they don't get lost?
If they're all distorted. Well, you say they're distorted. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. It means that there's aspects of them that are incorrect when you're traveling in certain ways on certain projections. So, for instance, distances that you travel aren't necessarily correct on an azimuthal projection. The direction that you're generally going to travel is correct. What does that mean? Does it mean that you'll get lost? No, it means you'll take longer. And that is actually the case. There are plenty of examples, including ones that Martin himself used to give back in the day, where the journey time was estimated to be a week, and it would end up being considerably longer. Or, and he got other accounts of other people who had to do the same thing, they'd have to do box maneuvers. Now I'm like, what the hell's a box maneuver? It's where they have to go round and round in a box, in circles, basically, to chew time. They'd arrived too early going the other way. So the direction of travel isn't an issue depending on how they've projected the map. But for instance, like I say, on an azimuthal projection, it works perfectly from the centre out. Right? Is anybody ever moving directly on a latitude line? Not necessarily. Well, that causes issues in terms of how it's distorted. So long as the GP positions the stars. Now, what I mean by that is when you get the position on the sea, you measure your angle. The most important tool at that point is something we very rarely mention, which is a chronometer. What's a chronometer? It's a watch, a really accurate watch. That you can go mark. Someone writes down the time, so that when you go to the almanac and say, where is that star above? What piece of land is it above? That's accurate. The GP positions are right. Now, if you then say, well, how have they distorted it? Well, I can tell you the process of distortion, because from angle measurement to Polaris, to give you circles that get bigger and bigger and bigger moving outwards as it moves towards the horizon, those are your origin for the grid system, right? You then wrap that around a globe, and all the lines match around the sphere surface instead of the flat surface. Okay, so it's already distorted. Then you project all of the points for that projected system back out onto a tube. You put a tube around the globe and then have all the points match back out onto the tube. Then you cut the tube along the center point and roll it out flat. That's a Mercator projection. Well, all of the points will still match up for the GP positions of the stars, which is all that's relevant. Where is the star actually above at a specific time? You can check them, they're right. Otherwise, it would never work. The reason the maps are distorted is because of that process. It doesn't change that because it's still matching up with the original grid system, the GPs still match. The distances may not, if you're not following the grid perfectly in terms of how the circles originally worked. Now, for the most part, your average navigator on a ship just knows how that distortion will look on the map. So an advanced navigator, we covered this a couple of weeks ago, actually, the guy showing it. And he's saying, look, when I put this on the Mercator projection, the journey of travel the boat takes is a massive curve. Now, I know I'm actually going straight. That's how the map projection is distorted. And therefore, that's how my journey across the map looks, even though it's really straight. Now, if you just took that map and didn't know that, there's a good chance you could get lost if you didn't know how it was distorting the world until you started lining it back up with the points above the map in relation to the GPs at specific times in the almanac. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I'm taking it in. This is a lot. This is a lot to take in. But I've been, staying on it for a while. Maybe I'm just average intelligence, but I can see the logic in it. What about the latitude lines in the southern? No, I won't say southern hemisphere. The south of the equator. So when you can't see Polaris,
that's where the biggest distortions occur. So that's where that's where Martin's stories originate. Stuff that was occurring beyond the equator. That's where you've got noticeable distortions in terms of how those lines, when stretched, will affect the journey times. That's where you get massive differences. But beyond that, I can't tell you much about it other than it's massively distorted directly as a result of mapping it back out from a globe after taking it from, I don't know what they've taken it from when you get beyond the equator, because that's where your limit is in terms of the northern hemisphere, right?
Why would you have to?
That you still have star charts for the south.
Why would you have to? How do you acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline.
You're not.
So it's all over right there. All the rest of this, I love listening to it, but it's actually academic. How do you acquire an elevation angle off a curved baseline or a curved adjacent?
A question about that too. When
answer that question. No, forgive me.
Just answer him, otherwise you won't let it go. You don't, Huey, you don't.
You can't.
Go ahead, Mike.
You can't. But if you are taking a sextant, looking at the horizon, right? The line of sight from whether it's and I'm not saying it's a globe, I'm just saying whether it is or not. I'm just saying for the purpose of making an argument using celestial navigation. When your line of sight is to the horizon, that is a straight line, right? No matter whether it's a curved surface you're on or a flat surface. The line of sight to the horizon, where you put the sextant for your reading of the angle to the star
incorrect.
Is a straight line.
Whether it's a straight line, yeah. So what are you measuring off of, though?
I think he's got a further point.
Okay, go ahead.
Continue.
Yeah,
go
so,
ahead, Mike.
So if you say you can only take an angle measurement from the horizon, you can't see the GP of the star that you're trying to get an angle measurement to. You can just go from the horizon, right? So whether you're on just say there was a world where it was curved and you were on a curved surface. If you look at the horizon, that's from your line from the lens of the sextant to the horizon, you're looking through is a straight line, and that's where you could. I'm just working through all this. You could get that's your right angle. There's your
wrong.
Your right angle up to the start. No, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's incorrect. What are you navigating on? Where's this straight line at?
Well, from the sextant to the horizon, from as far as you can see, where you put the sextant, and then get your baseline, and then measure up an angle to the star from that.
I think I've got where you're going.
It's a straight line. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think I figured out where you're going with this. Okay, it's got two issues as far as I can ascertain. The first issue is that the horizon you describe, if you are in globe world, making the globe argument, that horizon exists below surface level. It's not a point that you can measure in terms of the acquisition of horizontal to measure the baseline. The point of the horizon acquisition when you're using a sextant is to establish a horizontal baseline. That's its purpose. So you can't utilize the marked with the next labeled horizon, begging the question Earth curve horizon, because that's below surface level. Even if you say, well, there's a straight line to it as a tangent, but it doesn't give you a horizontal baseline. It exists below surface level, below horizontal. Second problem, is that
okay, yep.
The second problem is you said, well, it's a straight line. What is it? No Atmo day? If you've been foolish enough, no offense to you, I'm not saying you are, but if you've been foolish to fall into the trap where you're using a horizon that exists below surface level that won't ascertain a horizontal baseline, then why are we describing a straight line tangent to a horizon below surface level? What is it? No Atmo day. All lines are bent for them. It's always bent through refraction. There is no geometrical acquisition in any shape or form for a glober ever. It's the end of the argument. Black swan.
Yeah, that's why. Hold on. That's why the black swan and the actual sextant argument were born together. They're conjoined twins.
Right.
By the way.
You know oh, sorry. Yeah, you go.
No. I just wanted to stress that. Also, before you guys go on, I wanted to stress that Adam Meekin out in chat said that Nathan, don't listen to Nathan. The vacuum or gas pressure without a container is the #1 argument and always will be. Please continue.
That's code. That means get me bail. I've been arrested again.
Sorry for that. I had to state it. And one more super chat. Thank you, Guy Adams. He said, "Can we have a Nathan Asks Nature feature, please?"
I think Mike's got a couple more questions though. I don't think he's quite round.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Nathan. You know, with the what's his name? BLMSB, who took that black swan photo. And about 4 days later, he went down to the same spot and you could see, a huge ocean swirl or something. And it looked like they were, and the Globers will say, oh, that's Earth curve. They don't know what to do with the real black swan photo. But 4 days later, you've probably seen the photo. There's a big ocean swell and the second platform is, hidden behind a wall of water. So if that's ocean swell or air humidity or whatever it is, how would you use, if that's so variable, how can you, even if it's when it's flat, how can you get a proper angle?
That's
how can you measure from, how can you measure from the horizon when the apparent horizon can swell up and down with ocean swell and bad weather and whatever?
The apparent horizon, that's that's redundant, painfully so. The least common denominator, the rate limiting step is 1. Do you know what the black swan is? You know, not the black swan argument, black swan.
Yeah, if all swans are white and you find...
No, sorry. Stop, QE. What he's asking is, if you use a sextant, ascertain a horizontal, and you're pointing it at the horizon, and in your example, whatever it is, time zoom in the black swan imagery, when you're looking at boats that are oil rigs that are 10 odd miles away, if the horizons move by such a massive amount of margin between the front legs of the second rig and a couple of millimeters behind them, how can it be used to ascertain a horizontal if it's so variant? I think is the question. Am I wrong?
That's right. Yep. Yeah, with those photos taken 4 days apart. Yep.
But regardless, your question is, how can you use that horizon if it's so variable?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes.
Horizontal? The answer is it's that what we're describing as so variable isn't so variable.
Right. So why in the second photo, like, the black swan photo, the classic black swan photo, and 4 days later he took another one where there wasn't a huge ocean swell and you can't see the half of the second oil rig is obscured, and so the horizon looks higher on that. Just a few days later.
Right.
So if that's so variable, you're going to be getting different. You're going to be getting wrong angles.
I've got you. By perception through a super zoom camera, when you crop one section of it and say, wow, look at the difference between these two horizons. One's behind the oil rigs and one's in front of them. Therefore, there's a massive difference between the two. No, there is absolutely no difference to you in terms of what you would perceive if you were holding a sextant up to get horizontal and then do dip correction based on your height above sea level. In other words, raising in height by a foot would make a much bigger difference to the angle that you'd have to account for with dip than the difference in the weather conditions on the day. Now, I'm going to clarify that further. Because of super zoom cameras, the implications of the horizon appearing behind them, that's the oil rigs, as opposed to in front of them, for the globe are enormous. Because even the second one you described from BLMSB is actually a black swan also. But for the sake of argument, if we had an example, which we don't, where the horizon is actually a 1 foot observer height at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and you'd have the horizon at 1 mile away, like really close, 1 foot. The globe, that's where it should be. Now, when it's just on the first oil rig, one at 6 miles odd, and behind the second one, but in front of the first, or however way you phrase it, so that it's blocking the one that's behind, but not the one in front. That distance still puts Earth radius half size of the orbital distance to the moon. And the original black swan puts the Earth radius at the orbital value of the distance to the moon in the heliocentric model. That's how big the Earth would be if you used that horizon. So for a globe, implications for the difference, it's just use a globe way of describing it in pixels. Let's say there's 20 pixels difference at maximum zoom between those two horizons. That's all it really boils down to. 20 pixels.
Right. So with the mega zoom of the...
No, I'm nearly there.
All
not perceivable by you with a sextant at all. With a super zoom camera under the highest degree of scrutiny, you can say in one image, the horizon's in front of the oil rigs, and in one image, the horizon's behind the oil rigs. And you can then denote that in terms of distance to horizon being beyond 10 miles. And therefore, the huge implications it has on a claim of geometry using the horizon for globe geometry. In terms of the actual perceived difference of the horizon through a sextant, would be 0. Because you probably couldn't even see the oil rigs.
Right. Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Good. Great. Thank you very much for your time. That's been really good to talk to you.
I can't believe I was good with the answer. I'm really proud of myself. Yay. Oh, I'm off mute. Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Mic check.
Yes, we hear you, Neil.
Okay, just for QE. Nobody's answering that question because Neil deGrasse Tyson has not even answered the question about an elevation angle. So there we go.
Appreciate it.
He's got better. No, you trouble him with such questions, Neil. No, Neil deGrasse Tyson has got the lofty task of telling his audience how a tire works.
Shout out
Well,
to
that's my point.
Hold on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on. Shout out. Yeah, I'll get you right next, Neil. Skeptic 936. Appreciate it. Super chat. More channel support. Thank you very much, sir. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, Skep is here. What's up, Skep? Well, that's my point. I heard he's getting involved in tire pressure, so I reinstituted that question. I figured maybe he's listening. Why is he talking about gas pressure? No answer. I was dreaming.
Why would he even have a show on tire pressure? That was my question when you first brought it up, Nathan. When because I don't follow Smoking the Grass, but right out of the blue, tire pressure? What?
No. Don't leave it rhetorical. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that was my question. Why would you, as an astrophysicist, I'm not doing random presentations on tire pressure. I'm just not going to do it. It would be like, figuring out what color an amoeba is. Why would I do it randomly?
And that's my point. We're having
No, don't do it there. Don't do it. Do it. Stop.
We are.
Stop. Me do it to QE. QE, quantum eraser. John, why would Neil deGrasse Tyson make a video specifically about the functionality of tires in tire pressure? Why would you think he would do that? I'm asking you. I don't want the question back. I know the question, but right. I'm asking you the question.
The only possible way that it could pop up into his head or to his handler's head is if they heard it somewhere being discussed and how problematic it is. How about that?
Yeah, I agree. They must have heard it being discussed somewhere and felt the need to address it.
Yep.
Maybe a commenter brought it up, or maybe they'd had a whole bunch of emails that were really concerned about how tire pressure is being used in examples. I mean, that's the only conclusion we can draw, isn't it, QE?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you hear that, Neil?
I'm not buying it. He's listening. They're all listening. It's the result of what's going on here. Give yourself some credit.
That's what Nathan's
We're changing the world.
That's what Nathan's saying.
Oh, I'm saying it without saying it, Neil. Oh, he's not picking up what I'm putting down.
No.
It's a way of phrasing things so that no one could take what I said and say, Nathan is suggesting Neil deGrasse Tyson has watched Ballbusters and is responding to them because they do specifically make examples about how the world isn't a burning ball of gas-based heliocentric system with Earth without containment. And in so doing, they use tires when they say you can't have the tire pressure without the tire. Therefore, he is talking about tires and how they work because of that. We haven't said that. We phrased it in such a way as we have speculated why he might be doing it. And then drawn no actual conclusion.
Listen, I got it. I'm doing a bunch of other things, so I might not have heard it. I got you. I thought you were making fun of me like you usually do. I say that these people are listening to us, and you usually laugh me to scorn.
It's a fine line, Neil. You can imply that is the reason. But the moment you say it is the reason, it opens the gates to next man to say, oh yeah, you got a crystal ball. You know what he's thinking, do you? How do you know he's reactive? What evidence have you got? Oh, he's a shill, is he? It's the same principle. Somebody does something off the cuff that's wrong, and seemingly in detriment to whatever your cause is, and they're a shill. Well, what evidence have you got that they're a shill? I government paid agent that's out to muddy the waters of 9/11 truth. Any evidence of that? No. So what do? You let the audience make their own conclusion with as much inference as you feel is necessary to not get labelled a conspiratard. With me?
Totally with you. Got it.
Or he could be expressing his own cognitive dissonance in the matter of pressure and his heliocentric faith.
You labour this point. Neil is right. Let's be honest about it. We joke about it regularly. Yeah, just go into your local tyre store and say, you know what, I like the really cushy nature of tyre pressure just without the horrible expense of the rubber tyre. And you put that pump, that compressor, onto the rim, and just use gravity. Think of it as a force and get the tyre pressure without the tyre. That's the example we give regularly. Originator, quantum eraser. Why is Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about how tyres work? Not because he's got a great big trucker audience. And let's be honest here, why the hell else would he be talking about it?
There's literally an infinite number of reasons why he could be talking about it that we don't know.
No, we do not, and that's the point.
Sorry to put a time limit on you guys, but dinner's coming in 10 minutes.
Because of us. He's doing it because of us.
No, I'm not. It's been a great show, but family calls. So you got 10 minutes. So I'm gonna
10 minutes to chow.
Wingies, Q-y, likey, wingies, and I haven't had wingies in a long time. So I'm looking forward
Everybody
to
on
it.
the server off mute. Is everyone off mute in case they want to ask us something?
We're having camarones al ajillo.
Huh?
Yeah, everyone's off
My
mute.
wife's making camarones al ajillo. That's shrimp with white wine sauce and black beans. It's a Cuban dish. It's delish.
Anybody got anything they want to ask? Anybody got anything they want to ask about gas pressure, about sky vacuums, NASA being fake, trips to Mars, anything like that?
Trips to Mars. It's an open floor. We don't have to end right now. I said 10 minutes. They're not coming for... When she walks through that door with wingies, you'll know it, because I'll tell you.
That's good.
Well, there is a company that builds a tire. They have developed a tire that runs under a vacuum. It does not have tire pressure.
Yeah, there are such a thing as airless tires. More like spring. There's airless tires. There's tires that have no air in them. That is to say that they are a concertina of rubber attached to a ring. There's no need to have air in them. So
I know the ones you're talking about. The solid rubber ones.
No, not ones that can resist a puncture. I'm talking about next gen tires that are designed initially, at least, to run on very, very rugged terrain that is very highly likely to puncture air tires. So they've developed technology that hasn't got any air in. So they're just an open, look like a honeycomb, like an open honeycomb of rubber. As you go over something, that it compresses like a spring. If you do get a tire with a great big nail through one of the sections, it essentially makes absolutely no difference to the functionality of the tire.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought you were talking about the ones that they have on hand trucks that are attached to a rim, but it's just solid, thick rubber. No,
Like a space saver. No. I mean, you can get solid tires as well. I mean, that's how they originated on horse and cart, right? It was just a solid rim. But tire technology's come a long way, and now they do have airless tires, but it's not like it's gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, it's like besides the point.
Principles of a spring.
Yeah, it's like a red herring, dumbass red herring fallacy.
if someone was to mention it, but it is incredibly new technology, like within the last 5 to 10 years.
Invent
Didn't-
something where I don't need to freeze and I'll stay alive. Then you got me.
You talking to Michelin or Goodyear? Anyway, my point is Neil deGrasse Tyson's really got no call to discuss tire pressure. It was just a bit that it was just so close to the bone. It's almost unreasonable to not mention the association with us, if nothing else, just for synchronicity or coincidence sake, to point out how closely his covering of tire pressure for seemingly no reason, and even he, in his video talking about tire pressure, didn't directly connect it to anything to do with his subject matter expert status in heliocentrism. Didn't even dare connect the two. He just talked about how tires work out of the blue. Like he's got hundreds of requests of how tires work from people. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that we talk about it on a regular basis, and he is our direct competition, a direct opponent in terms of the rhetoric of heliocentrism. He's the high priest.
I would say he's underneath us as far as authority goes, because
In
I
terms of
doubt he
advanced,
understands.
in terms of advanced heliocentrism, he's below us. Yes, John.
I don't like that. I'm not.
Well, if
I'm
we
not.
have the authoritative,
I'm not.
Hold on. You said you don't like it, John, but you let him get away with it in the beginning of the show. There's Nathan. We're advanced heliocentrists.
I
I'm
know,
like,
but
what the fuck?
I didn't want to stop him because he was in mid sentence, so I wanted to give him, ample time to say what he wanted to say. So, advanced heliocentrist? No, I'm not a heliocentrist.
Fine. John, what were you saying? Refracted curvature.
I'm not a heliocentrist either, but there are plenty of people who are experts on the Bible who aren't necessarily Christian.
I'm not a heliocentrist, so I'm not an advanced heliocentrist.
Right, but to say you're an expert on heliocentrism would not be wrong, because there are people who are experts on the Bible who don't necessarily.
I don't need
believe
another
it's true.
example. The other example is another red herring fallacy. If you want to call yourself an advanced heliocentrist, you are, no matter what the adjective is in front of the goal word, you are a heliocentrist. Follow?
No, to slightly rephrase then, we cover advanced heliocentrism.
That's fair enough. That doesn't make me an advanced heliocentrist.
I mean, it kind of does. Like it makes you an advanced evolutionist.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's why I put the ism instead of the ist. I said, we're experts in advanced heliocentrism, not
I
heliocentrism.
don't understand what the problem is with calling yourself a flat earther. You reside on flat Earth. Yes, we
That's
deal
what I
with
call myself,
heliocentric
Neil.
nonsense.
As much as it pains me to do so sometimes, Neil, I am still a proud flat earther, and I'll always declare myself as such. That is to say, I am someone who professes the world to be as it's measured and navigated. That's flat. Now, the fact that there's a stereotyping fallacy that's been very heavily tarnished intentionally, that term is flat earther, I can deal with that. That's not a problem. While I jokingly, and I speak into the mic, I try and make it into a direct joke so people know that it's joking when I say we're going to rename the show Advanced Heliocentric Debate. Never going to happen. You know what I mean, Neil?
Now I wouldn't
Flat
have a
earthers, we know we are.
I wouldn't have a problem with that, the way you just stated that. If you wanted to make an advanced heliocentric debate, that's different than we're advanced heliocentrists, if you follow me. It's a bit pedantic, but I think important.
No, I do. The group that you're associating yourself to is a group of people that believe in the world being in motion around the sun. That's what that statement means if you say you're anything heliocentrist.
Right.
I really think that it should be dropped. I think it's going into the bad direction, even thinking
Agreed.
about, the psychology around the world, flat Earth, and the crazy conditioning that society has been subjected to is like at the very root of the entire problem. So to try to
I don't
avoid
care.
it, we just get lost in the woods, basically.
If you try and relinquish the brand flat Earth or the brandishing of you as a flat earther, and it's almost like you're conceding to the fact that you've got to brace against the government because of all the brainwashing that they've ascribed to that. And to me, it's like, I don't really care that the term's got that bad connotation about it. Not really, because it's not like paedophile or rapist or murderer. It's got no massively negative connotations to it that I feel I need to defend, other than, oh right, you've got a pre-programmed stereotype about what that word means. That's your problem. And I don't really care that much, is the honest truth.
I get that, but it is what is being used to program people to avoid us.
Well, fight the government. Make them mean what flat Earth really means. No, fuck that.
No. I want you to get up from your chair, open your window, and shout, "I'm not gonna take it anymore." Oh wait, I mean, watch the Flat Earth debates live, and Ballbusters.
And Arwin for that comment alone.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up, Nathan.
Perfect. So with that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to all of the Ballbusters panel and the live participants that joined us. Link below if you ever wanted to join a future Ballbusters show. But of course, a massive thank you to all of you tuning in live, smashing the super chat, hitting QE up on PayPal and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out theglobeterminator.com for more ball-defeating arguments and comments and queries and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to our host, Quantum Eraser, and we will see you all in the next Ballbusters.
Just like go out and like put a question to Mother Nature.
Nature, is this guy a fuckwit? Yes, Nathan! He's really stupid!
And so, yeah, I'm really sad that only 84% of people can
72.4% of statistics are made up on the spot. Vic Reeves.
say with certainty that they've always believed the world is a globe. And that...
Hold on a second. Nature, can you hear me? Yes, Nathan. What percentage of wanker is this guy? He's about 94.7% wanker. Thank you, Nature.